Hello, welcome to a new episode here in the Energy Bridge. Today we have in the office of Roots Energy with Gerald, who is going to make us a tour to see your solution and the office, which is pretty cool. So if you can show around. So yeah, very looking forward. And this is before the interview, just to make a context. So yeah, welcome and thank you for having us here in your office.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you very much. So my name is Gerald. I'm one of the founders of Roots Energy. You are in our what we call the Roots House. It's our research and development building, and we work here and we develop all the products and the solutions in here. And then I give you a tiny overview of what we are doing here. A long story short, we're developing thermal system for cities, and what we're doing is we're solving the problem of the ambient heat sources that heat pumps need so that they really work in the cities. Our focus is on noiseless, so completely noiseless and efficient and resilient ambient sources for heat pumps in cities.
Yeah, we're going to go deeper in the interview, so please show us
So,
where everything is cooked.
What you see in the building here is one floor of 6 floors, and each floor is able to replicate a typical situation in European urban cities. That means no matter how you emit the heat, in this case, we are emitting it through these panels. If you have normal radiators, if you have underfloor heatings, if the heat pumps are in the basement or if they are in an apartment, like we can cover everything here. And what I'm showing here is a building that is heated with panels. So this is the most efficient thing you can do right now. It can do the heating and the cooling with it. With everything, just with this one panel. If you turn around, what you see here, for example, is an apartment heat pump. Oh, wow. So this part here is actually the thermal storage for hot water and also for the heating itself. And the heat pump itself is actually the tiny thing in here.
Oh, it's super small.
It's not more. You usually, you just put it in a shelf. It's in a small modular compressor module that can be cascaded to. And usually that's everything you need for one apartment.
Wow, so for how many people can be used this? Like an apartment for 5 people? Like
so
household?
This small setup you see here is usually the right one for if like 2 people live in an apartment.
Okay.
If you have something bigger, I show you around.
Don't see there.
Yeah. It's a little messy in the basement. We have something else. So this bigger device here with the bigger, I'm getting to this later. So this is the bigger version of this with the bigger hot water tank and then a bigger heat pump. So this is usually what you would have for apartments where, let's say, like 4 or 5 people live.
Okay.
So and usually you put this in a small storage room and so on.
So how big is this in power? Like
that's exactly the same size as a fridge.
No, but in power, like the second.
So it goes up right now to 12 kilowatts of performance, which is more than enough for everything you encounter in a city in terms of apartments.
Sure. So you don't have to make any arrangement in the electrical system to install it. It's just.
Well, that depends. So if usually you have an old electrical system and you install something like this, you have to do something a little with the electrical system in the house.
To reinforce a bit.
Yeah. If the building is built after 1980, usually you don't have to. But it's just a very rough rule of thumb. So, but you have to look at the electrical system at the house if everything is fine before you do.
Sure.
So what you see right here is actually something that is usually in a basement. And I show you in the basement what this what it does. This is the Roots Hub. This is actually our core product. And this thing is a technical room in a box. So, or a boiler room in a box, how you call it. So the whole technology, like the problem with the whole technology usually is it's pretty complicated and complex, and you need engineering companies and very competent installers and so on. You don't need that anymore with our system. So you don't need a technical room even. You put this one somewhere in the corner, You just have 2 pipes per ambient source, 2 pipes per building, and a LAN cable and an electrical plug, and that's it.
Yeah, super plug and play.
Yeah, it's plug and play. In this case, you look at something that has a hybrid source. That means flow and return for air source, flow and return for ground source, and this is 2 buildings. That's
Super.
it. And I show you now the basement.
Yeah.
And in the basement itself, you see how those rooms normally look.
Yeah, so if you can show here, you can see the configuration. So it's the solution for can be 2 buildings, as you show here.
Yeah, in this case, right.
Cool. And you can use source from the ground.
Yeah, right. And it's mixed. And this is a passive absorber that we are showing, I show you later. Because in the cities, usually silent is not good enough. You read really completely noiseless. And what you see here is this building had no place for a tech room. So they had just a very tiny room, storage room, and the roots hub is in there. And it wouldn't have been possible without it.
So let's go to the
let's go downstairs. So on the way downstairs, I show you another heat pump, and then I show you the tech room.
Okay. So this is all part of the office.
Yeah. This is the 6 floors, and everything is part of our system. So this is another form of an apartment heat pump. This is an Austrian partner company that we're working with. And in this case, the water boiler or the water tank is in here and in whatever size you want it. And this is the heat pump. And the heat pump is either somewhere in a small storage room or it can be above the entrance or so on.
It's not that big as I thought. That's super cool solution. And this is the radiator for...
This is another radiator. Like we have different radiators in the building. This is an active radiator or a fan coil. It usually substitutes normal radiators, and it has active fans in there. And if you need more performance or if you want to have cooling, those can do both.
Cool. And the solution?
Yeah, I would have shown you afterwards. So I think I show you down so that you see all the tech internal in the house, and then I show you the ambient source.
Yeah. So, wow, what an office. So you're really looking for expansion.
Yeah, we do. So, oops.
Yeah, here is with everything is
here.
cool.
So what you see here is a room how it's usually traditionally done. So this is So this is all the control systems and all the tech you do it if it's traditionally done. A system like this. We have a little more because it's also an R&D setup. But a long story short, this kind of room is why everybody's afraid of it. You need engineering office to build something like this. There's a lot of room for failure for the installers, and not many can do it. And those rooms easily cost 50 to 100,000 euros if you do them. And the roots hub you saw over there has all this stuff in this little box. So everything that is complex and everything that can be done wrong, almost everything is in this box, and you put it just somewhere in a corner. We don't even need a tech room. A niche is enough, and it doesn't matter where it stands. Usually it's in a basement, but it can also be somewhere in the attic or whatever.
It's not so much, and that's the heat exchanger, right?
That is one of the. We have many heat exchangers for research purposes. So because
you have your own pilot here in your office. That's super cool.
Yeah,
like
we have in this building. I talk a bit more about this outside. So the ambient source itself, we have every ambient source you can imagine. So from different kind of air sources, ground sources, solar, thermal solar. Everything you would need.
And what is this?
Yeah, this is probably the most modern version of the apartment heat pump that we're using right now. This is from a Swedish partner company, and this is the bigger version of what I showed you before with higher performance. And a long story short, I think this is probably the mainstream mainstream product that goes into the apartments when it comes to retrofitting apartments.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's go outside to see the source. Finally sunny.
Yeah.
Spring's coming.
So this,
Wow, but look at the building, man. It's super cool.
yeah, this is a building from the 70s that we completely renovated, and we made it from the ground up as a building that can replicate every situation that you encounter in a European city. So no matter if it's a central oil, central gas, decentralized gas, if you need geothermal, if you need only air source, if you have photovoltaic, whatever, like we can do it all here. And the core is we have 6 research geothermal here. And we have these passive absorbers. In these passive absorbers, they are heat exchangers, passive heat exchangers with brine in there. And no matter if we just put them somewhere on the wall or if we put them in a box like here, it doesn't even have electricity. So it just works with natural convection.
Okay.
And that means the natural air that flows through it, and it's completely noiseless. And it's the advantage is because it's completely noiseless, you don't have any legal issues, you don't have any acceptance issues.
No, with the neighbors, no problem.
Right. And it's easy in a single, very simple system. It can be combined with geothermal.
And what is the depth of this geothermal?
Well, in this case, they are only 70 meters because we can address each of those separately. But in normal cases, it's somewhere usually 150 meters. It can go down to 200, 250.
And until 200 meters, there's no permission that you need require, right?
Yeah, until 300.
300.
Yeah. But it doesn't, like, economically, usually 200 is the limit.
Yeah. We interviewed some other startup that it's making flex drill and is up to 200. So
yeah,
it's cool.
Yeah. So but this is this combination with the passive absorbers and the geothermal, having all this in a single simple system, no cascading system. Like it's just super robust. That is the core, in combination with the hub, is the core of our technology. And I think that's also important, and we solve for all those heat pump manufacturers the problem that they have in the city, in dense cities, an ambient source they need so that heat pumps work.
That's great.
Yeah.
Super cool. Yeah, so now we go to the interview. Welcome to a new episode here in the Energy Bridge. Today we are in the office of Roots Energy. We made a small tour. You can see there the solution outside, also inside. They have their own pilot in the building. How cool is that? So, Gerald, thank you for having us here again.
You're welcome.
And yeah, really looking forward for this.
Thank you very much for the tour. I love your office, first of all. You definitely have done a super job. I mean, before we get deep into that, tell us about yourself and walk us through your journey of getting to Roots Energy.
So thanks for having me. So I'm actually a construction engineer by training. So I grew up in a construction company. My father owned a company, and I was already working on construction buildings together with my father, painting floor plans and so on. So that's how I got into this. And years later, I spent a lot of time in software and in software design. And in this time, I learned how you combine the product thinking and the software thinking, and especially the user experience thinking on how to disrupt and revolutionize a certain industry. And this part in my former life brought me a couple of years ago into the energy transition, where I also met my co-founders. And a long story short, what I'm doing here is we are combining many different disciplines to work on the energy transition.
You are like innovating in a very mature technology, and you were mentioning before recording the multidisciplinary
Yeah.
of your team. So how is composed, or who is doing this possible?
And also with your background of multimedia art and media culture.
Well, the approach I have is we as individuals, we are not smarter than others, but we work together differently. So what we are doing is we're bringing people from all different disciplines and parts of life. For example, we have people who come from actually space engineering, electrical engineering, software engineering, mechanical engineering, real estate, software development, legal. So all those people on eye level in the same room talking about the problem we want to solve. And that changes a lot. And when we need an answer, usually we don't have to wait months. We have it usually within the day. And that makes us much more agile. And it's also much more fun to work when you do it that way.
So which problem would you say that you are solving? Like in a summary, is to decarbonize all buildings in cities as Vienna, like all cities?
Yeah.
Or for every city in the world?
Well, we're focusing much on Europe because the problems that we are having are very unique for Europe, because we cannot and don't want not just to rip down our buildings and build everything new. And also when we build something new, we usually build it for generations, and that changes a lot how systems are built. So we don't have those normal AC devices like in, for example, North American cities. But getting back to your question, so we are solving the problem wherever traditional air heat pumps don't work for whatever reason, or people don't want them. This is where we have a solution. And the reasons can be very different. The solutions usually are in the cities, people, silent solutions are not good enough. They need noiseless solutions. Or in the cities, usually you don't have even the space for the performance you need that you can actually generate enough power. That needs hybrid sources. In buildings, you have very fragmented systems with decentralized gas heaters and sometimes centralized ones, oil heaters, and you don't want to have a complicated fragmented system. And we built a thermal system that solves all these problems in a very simple, homogeneous system with standard product. So our, I'd say, promise to big real estate owners, when you can do and want to do a traditional air-to-source heat pump, do it. But for everything else, we most likely have the most economical solution.
We went one step ahead, but just coming back also, because you have a lot of digital background, and the work that you're doing is it's like the mix between the software and the hardware. How was this whole journey, and what was the switch back to hardware stuff that you're doing?
When I worked in construction engineering, the frustrating part was that everything is so slow. And it has a lot of, like, everything has a lot of frictions. Permissions, people, everything has a lot of friction. And in software, I learned the importance of convenience, user experience, and how to reduce friction. And this experience we brought back into the thinking how to build something for real estate, because it's not a base principle of physics that things has to be slow in this area. It's more a result of things have evolved. With this product thinking, we made things much cheaper and much faster. And the software thinking is what enables this. So just as an example, plug in, like the terms like plug and play, even that people talk about something like user experience that is unheard of usually in real estate. That we use prefabricated products instead of building stuff on site. That is also pretty new. And that we don't take things for granted, like that people, let's say, heat pumps or air source heat pumps are allowed, or even say, oh, there always have to be a ventilator in there. Like, why. Like physics don't say that there have to be a ventilator in there. There are reasons why they're in there, good reasons, but we can question the reasons behind it. And that's what we did.
Great. So how do you solve this no ventilation system?
Well, in our case, so when air source, the problem is usually nobody who lives in a city wants to have an active ventilator in front of their sleeping room, for example.
Yeah.
So the problem is not that they have a device somewhere. The problem is that they have a device, even if it's a small one, that makes a noise or rotates or whatever. So what we figured out is that a bigger size is not the main problem. The problem is that it moves. And we solved it in a way that we say these are very low-tech modular components that we can spread out over the building a bit more. If we can put a box somewhere, like you see in the back here, then we usually put a box somewhere. If we can put it below the solar panels, we put it below the solar panels. If we can put it in a wall, we can put it in a wall. Usually, we find enough space, especially in combination with a little bit of geothermal, that we can cover everything the building needs with these passive absorbers. And the result is that it's an extremely resilient system that lives for a very long time. So the ambient source part lives much, much, much longer than heat pumps. And it's noiseless.
How long does they last? Just to know.
Well, the infrastructure part, the geothermal part with the passive absorbers, probably somewhere between 50 and 100 years.
Oh.
So that lives very long. And the heat pump itself is actually the thing that probably lives, so we are talking about brine to water heat pumps, they probably live somewhere between 25 to 35 years.
Looking at when you were giving us a tour, it's all shape inside it. So you can tailor it. How big. So you can actually tailor it to the requirement of any building.
Yes. But it's all based on standard components. It's just a handful of components. They're all standardized.
And also, just when we were just reading about what you're doing at Roots Energy, we see that there's also a bit of technician shortage problem as well, like going forward. And if you can just tell us, like doing this kind of installation, how much man hour that you're saving?
Yeah, I think the important part is like who is the user, and we have actually 3 users. We have the landlord. I would say this is the economical user. So this is the one who is making usually the buying decision. Then we have the installers who are the technical users. For them, it has to be easy. And then we have the tenants who live somewhere. Those are the ones who are having the user experience of living. So the advantage for the landlord is that they're saving compared to conventional solutions roughly 40%. So those tech rooms, and I'm really talking about focused on the tech rooms, they cost, depending on the building size, somewhere between 50 to 100,000 euros. And there we are reducing roughly 30% of the cost, and it's like fixed. Wow. For the installers, the only thing they have to do is 2 pipes, flow and return, a LAN cable, and electricity, and that's it. Wow. So it's very easy. And so that means the commissioning of the device, when we bring the device, the Roots Hub, this is our core product, is usually done in a day. So the only thing the installer has to do is the water pipes through the building. So every installer who can do water pipes can do the system. And then we have the users, so the tenants. For them, usually nothing should change. Whatever experience they had before is the experience they should have afterwards, with the exception that they can upgrade to cooling if they want. So they can have they can have cooling in their building.
Nice. You were mentioning how much effort you have put in making this Root Hub super easy to install.
Yeah.
And in energy transition, we have seen some reports that the skills for people to work in energy are getting short. So how have been your experience with regular installers? What do you need to be an installer of these heat pumps, for example?
The installers need no special education. So when they know how to make water pipes, they can know how to install the system, because everything they're getting is a little console that is pre-made, where they attach their pipes to, and we bring our device afterwards. So they don't even see the device, and everything else we do remotely. So that we're just filling the brine into the pipes then, and then we activate it remotely.
So that's also makes it much cheaper, right? Like
Yeah, it is much cheaper.
you-
The quality assurance is completely there. We can monitor everything. We can fix almost everything remotely. And since the inertia of a building is very long, when we encounter a problem, we know it usually a long time before the people in the building already realize it. So obviously, where you build things can break, and whenever that happened, we already had the technicians on site before the people in the building called us and said, somebody's already fixing it.
Great. So you have here, you are building the hardware, this solution, like plug and play solution, but also the software, the software during the operation. So the user can watch in the phone, kind of how it.
No, one of the biggest questions of real estate owners is like, who takes over responsibility of the system afterwards? And we want to take the responsibility afterwards. So that is very unique to us. Like most people who build this, they want to have somebody else then be responsible for it in operations. But no, we ship this thing so we can take over the responsibility afterwards. And yeah, we have everything in-house needed for it. So for example, if an energy provider or if a real estate management company is actually the legal operator of the system, we are actually doing like everything in the background that is needed.
Okay. And how many users do you have now, and how much do you expect? How many?
Well, the thing is, we are going into the scaling phase right now. So that means in Vienna, we have right now, I think by the end of summer, 7 bigger buildings in operations, and we will go into the scaling phase in 2027, so next year, and then we ramp up production, go to Germany, and go to other cities.
The whole design, it's also modular and peace and quiet. So how much of that, because Vienna is very densely and a lot of the buildings are made, let's say there are heritage buildings, and it's a similar problem throughout Europe. So how much of the design is because of considering that it's going to be in the dense area and it has to be quiet and peace and within the regulatory norm?
That was, I'd say, probably the core design principle even. What our hypothesis was, if we manage to solve the problem in the densest areas with decentralized gas heaters, it's much easier than to actually go further to the easier cases, central heatings, also new buildings, which we're also doing. But if you only solve the easy problems, then for those people, it's much harder to go into the difficult ones. So what I'm trying to say is the modules we designed solve the most difficult of the problems. And now it's easy for us through the modularity of the system to also cover all the other cases. So we can, our heat pump modules, we can simply cascade to bigger systems. Our thermal system doesn't care if it's a tiny or a small building or if it's a huge district. It really doesn't care.
Wow.
And so we can cover pretty much everything now.
You talked about the modular system and cascading, and I had the question as well while I was thinking that a single modular hub, how much can it handle, and how many multiple units can it handle, and what will be the output of it?
Yeah, so the modularity itself is within the architecture of the hub. So we are in the hub itself, we are not stacking different boxes. And right now it goes up to 500 kilowatts. So the smallest is somewhere, depending a little on the building, between like 20 or 40 kilowatts. And it goes up to 500. But I think in the long term, we want to do more too.
Yeah, because the solution that we just saw in the tour, it's you can have one solution even for 2 buildings. So
yeah, multiple buildings. Yeah. We're doing one for 4 buildings now. And we actually designing one. Well, we'll see if it really happens for much more buildings.
And
so
I just have a different question. How much of that is also permitting when you have like 4 buildings using one cascading effect?
yeah.
It's important, right? Like when you have like 4 buildings, and them using one single resource, is there any permitting bottleneck as well there?
No, not really.
No, okay.
No, and I think the important part is also when you talk about cascading, so this always refers to the heat pump.
Mhm.
When we talk about the energy source, the ambient source, an ambient source itself has no heat pump. The ambient source means the energy from the air, the energy from the ground, whatever. The heat pump is what makes it usable, and the heat pump doesn't care if it's in one central place, if it's in every building or in every apartment. So that really depends from case to case where it's the smartest to put it.
How does your solution maintain the COP when you have this low grade like temperature inside, but you need more heat? How do you
Yeah.
keep the COP?
When you talk about heat pumps, you usually talk about the seasonal performance factor. So you look like the COP looks at one specific moment in time from source to how much heat output you generate.
So it's
But-
not the same COP for
No.
winter and summer?
No. And that's why you usually look at the season performance factor, which is in German the Jahresarbeitszahl.
Mhm.
And that is the important part. And that means you need a really stable average between what temperatures you have in winter, in autumn, and in summer for cooling too. And so long story short, the most modern heat pumps right now, even with only air source, are so efficient that they're so far away from what we have in fossils that it's not even an issue for people anymore.
Okay.
And the systems we have, especially like when we use only air source, it's just like it's just as efficient as a normal air source heat pump. So we have no magic wand to make this better.
2.5, 3.
No, it's better. It's much better.
Better.
No, it's like these are numbers. When you in older systems, when they are not well done, when you for example, these are numbers that you get usually when you retrofit a decentralized gas heater with a centralized heat pump, only air source, then you're getting this kind of numbers.
Okay.
But if you do it a little smarter, then you're getting much better numbers. You get rather something, I'd say we don't have a system right now that is worse than 4. So
Oh,
that is really the worst we're doing right now. And when you have a hybrid source that you have a little bit of geothermal in it, then it gets better and better. And there is not even factored in that you have with the a little bit of geothermal free cooling. So cooling is pretty much for free.
You have high COP, more than
Yeah.
4. You have cheap installation and like let's say capex. Capex. So what is the payback that you are seeing with your solutions in the current energy situation here in Europe?
Pardon me,
Like in years payback of the system itself.
Oh, okay. So I think the important part is that people who are retrofitting to this kind of system, they're not looking at payback. They are looking at my system is end of life. And do I really want to spend 100,000, 200,000 euros for an old system? That means their calculations in terms of payback starts after those expenses they would have for a fossil system. And it is still more expensive than a fossil system, but not so much that this is a real issue. The important part in the energy transition right now is nobody replaces a completely fine fossil system. You have to get those people who are having fossil systems end of life, and you have to prevent that those are switching the fossil systems with the fossil system again.
And that's your target.
That's our main audience. That's our main audience. And for them, the economics are already so much on the side of the renewables that it's not a real issue. And every fossil system has a lifespan from maximum of 30 years. That means to achieve our goals, it's enough to get those where the system is end of life. If we manage that nobody who has an end of life fossil system goes back to a fossil system, then the energy transition will be fine. The problem right now is that it's super easy for people to renew the fossil system. There's no regulatory friction whatsoever and so on. And for people who are building renewables, they they still have the friction in terms of regulatory, even though it's the safer system, the better system, the more desirable system. The regulatory part, and especially a very complicated grant system, it doesn't help.
Yeah, but this is the situation here in Vienna. But how do you see the rest of Europe?
So my main knowledge is about Austria and Germany too, and especially for the big real estate holders who are looking more at on a European level. So big institutional owners, they switch to renewables anyhow because they're looking at ESG criteria and they don't want to have stranded assets based on fossils. So for them, they're already moving. They're already looking for solutions on how to get on to renewables. For them, it's more like who are the reliable players, who have the scalable systems, and who have the systems that can be managed. If you look at on a more individual level, that means association ownerships, Wohnungseigentumsgemeinschaften. There it's getting really complicated. And if you look at the dense cities, and actually this is also pretty much the same in all the European cities, the regulatory part is very complicated because everything that is new has many different people who are responsible for this. And as long as they don't talk internally, it still remains complicated. Vienna is at the forefront of this, I guess, and it has been really a good journey with them talking about this, but still a hell of a lot of work to even with people who really want to make this happen and work hard on it, it's still a lot of work.
And also, Gerald, if you can touch upon the scale of the problem, just counting the buildings, the old buildings, which is reaching its end of life cycle.
Yeah.
How big is the market for within Austria, within Europe?
Yeah. So in like the kind of buildings we are looking at in Europe, there are no reliable stats because some cities don't count it, but it's a couple of million buildings. So it's really a lot. And I'm not talking about small houses. I'm talking really about condominiums, so bigger buildings, multi-story buildings. And that potential is massive.
Which one would you say that is the biggest bottleneck? The physical installation in the building of the resistance of the people to change the system to a new technology?
When the product is there and when it's affordable enough, most of the people are much further than most people think. So in the buildings, we see that you will always have a handful of people in every building who are against this. But the majority wants to have the better system, period. That's it.
Cost effective.
Yeah. So the people are not the problem. The problem is cost and regulatory. And I would say half a problem is the grant system. So cost is something we want to solve and can solve. So the economy of scale is on our side and our systems will get cheaper over time. And I think we ultimately will be able to solve most of this problem. Like all the regulatory effort is now on those who want to do renewables. And it would have to be the other way around. The regulatory effort would have to be on the side of those people who want to renew fossils. I think you should have to do some explaining if you want to burn something in your house again. Or if you have no good reason to go on fossils again. So the regulatory part goes much further than what I said here, but it's a lot of homework needs to be done here. And the grant system is counterproductive in many ways because it's way too complicated. It adds so much friction into the projects. So I'd much rather have very low grants that are very easy to understand and get instead of what we have right now. So yeah, the grant systems, the unreliable grant system, especially the federal ones, are part of the problem.
And in terms of regulation, what is easier to install, the individual solution of the multi apartment, like a building or an apartment? Which one is easier?
Well, it always depends what you had before. I think when you retrofit, you always have to look at what did you have? And the core design principle is that we have to preserve ownership structure. So that means when you have a decentralized gas heater, that means the ownership of the heating was in the apartment. If you had a central heating system, the ownership of the heating itself is either in the association ownership or of the real estate owner, the landlord. And that means the change needs to happen there. So the easiest is wherever the heater was before, you have it afterwards.
And this is more of the enabler or the energy consumption. So do you, when you prescribe something, if it should be a centralized system or a decentralized system, so you look at what was there before?
Building cost. It's it's always building cost. So what people like in terms of operating costs, the main question is always, is it cheaper than was before? And this is really easy to achieve. And then it's always like, how much does it cost to actually get this done? Because renewable systems, even though we make it much cheaper, it's still expensive. It's still a lot of money.
But it pays off economically and environmentally.
Yes, it pays off. But again, it depends. When the existing systems are end of life, it pays off. If you have a perfectly working fossil system, then you have to wait until also the system is end of life, and then it pays off.
Okay, and also in terms of sources for the heat pump, you have here the geothermal solution. You mentioned that you can take any source. But in geothermal in particular, how was the permitting process and the logistic behind?
In Vienna, especially, getting the permits for geothermal is pretty frictionless. So no matter if you do it like we did in our inner yard or if you do it on public ground, that's pretty easy. Being able to make boreholes on the sidewalks, for example, is key for the energy transition, and Vienna realized that, and to have a standardized process for that is key. So other European cities have to follow if they want to have the energy transition.
So Austria is the only one?
I'm not sure if it's the only one, but it's at least the only one I know of that has a standardized process for this.
Okay, up to
and
how
if
deep?
you could tell us again how much you had to drill here?
For this building, well, this is a science building, so we are having 6 boreholes, but I guess probably for the way this building is made, probably 1 or 2 would have been enough. So for most of the buildings, typically Viennese buildings, we do for the hybrid sources, we do like 4 boreholes are enough. And so, well, we can also do air source. So the boreholes simply make the best mix between reliability and cost and efficiency. But in most of the cases, we have roughly 4 boreholes, and they can be done on the sidewalk.
And how deep are the boreholes?
In most of the cases, somewhere between 100 and 150 meters.
And which technology did you use in this time? Because of the logistic, I'm thinking in the machinery, how to make the...
Yeah, there's just one. You have a huge drilling machine that comes and puts a hole in the ground. A tiny one. So it's not a big hole. The machine is big, but the hole is tiny.
Okay, and for each system, you need 1 borehole or more than 1? Because here you have 6 just for R&D.
Yes,
purposes.
Right.
But in a regular system, you need...
in a regular system is most of the cases it's somewhere around 4. When the building is bigger, it's 6, 7, 8. So it really depends. But if you look at the typical traditional Viennese building, what we see most of the cases right now is 4, 5 boreholes.
Yeah. And now, Gerald, coming to you, you have a background of design and communication. And we see, do you feel that people fear heat pump, or there's a bit of communication problem as well while we go forward in energy transition? People, we need to communicate differently to make it enabler for people to use different stuff and use something which is more forward.
I'm taking right now the political aspect out of the equation. And so now I can address that afterwards. So when it comes to heat pump, people fear the noise. They don't fear the heat pump itself. So many people know these new devices next to small houses, they're making noises. So this is what they fear. And if you take this fear out of the equation, because there is nothing moving anymore in the ambient source, then what we saw is that the fear is gone. People are fine with it. And that is really important. Technicians tend to talk about efficiency all the time. And that is obviously important when you do the things, but most people really don't care so much about this. They really just want to know, is it cheaper than what I had before? And then how loud is it? And so this is one part of the fear of heat pumps. And the other part is probably that you mentioned is the political one. To be honest, I think that will just fade, because at the end you have a superior system on almost every level. And there are some political lobbies who spread a lot of misinformation, but this is just, I think it's impossible to win this game for them. They will just extend the timeline for the transition. They will make it for many companies hard, but physics and economics are so hard on the side of heat pumps.
Yeah.
I think this cannot be won. And I think if you make heat pumps a non-issue and really boring, I think then people will calm down and see, oh gosh, I can save a lot of money with this. I can have cooling with this. Do we really want to depend on Russian gas or even US gas? Probably not really. And
Yeah, I mean, you're addressing one of the hottest topic, which is decarbonized heat and cooling, which we're going to address in our forum in June as well.
Yeah.
And actually, it's so a hot topic right now that there is a I don't know if it's global conference in Vienna in May this year.
Yeah.
Are you attending? I suppose.
Most likely.
Yeah, you should. We are
That's
going to be there,
Yeah.
maybe making some interviews as well.
There might be a visit in our house from the people there.
Amazing.
Great. And we were talking about that you are building a hardware, and here in Europe, it's this new wave of reindustrialization with the new companies which are innovating. How do you see the future of root energy in terms of manufacturing? Do you want to keep it in Europe, or you are going to outsource?
So we want to keep everything in Europe. So that is clear. So whatever can be done here, we will do here. If it cannot be done here, then obviously we are pragmatic. Then we will look outside too. But as far as we know right now, most of it or everything can be done in Europe too. Important part is software and hardware is today one thing. So if you really care about the software, you really, in most of the cases, when you do something new, you need to build the hardware too. And that is actually our own motivation. We know what the energy transition needs in terms of software, in terms of intelligence, that it also really fits into the energy system. We need this piece of hardware that can do it all. It can be monitored, that can be upgraded, that have state-of-the-art security, that can be extended. So that is the main reason why we are building our own hardware. And since energy right now in Europe has a lot to do with autonomy and resilience, it makes a lot of sense for us to build everything here.
In the last question, you said you will leave the politics aside. Let's bring it in. And if you have to change any regulation going forward, and you think that it can actually make it light speed to do the urban decarbonization, what will that be? One regulation that you can change?
I would say those who have a fossil system end of life and want to renew it with the fossil system, they should go through an approval process. The renewables should considered as state of the art.
Now it's mainstream.
The mainstream and the state of the art should be the renewables. And when you do the renewables, you should have a very easy, if no, approval process. And if you renew a fossil system, those people should have the regulatory barriers.
Okay.
This is it is the much more dangerous system. it is the system that harms us in our autonomy and politically. It is more expensive and it harms the environment. So why is it so easy for them? And so it should be the other way around. And I think it doesn't even have to be a law. I think it's probably enough that it's just an investigation. So like you renew a fossil system and you automatically trigger an investigation where you explain why that happens. And if you have good reasons, then keep your fossil system. But if there are no good reasons, and I probably think there's probably 90% who won't have good reasons, then take any kind of renewable.
Yeah, also it's a challenge of how to communicate it, right? That's why you are doing a great job, and that's why we are doing this, because it has to be communicated.
And I want to ask you one more thing. And we asked Angelus from Infrared earlier. You're doing a great job, like making energy efficient the old buildings. Why all the new energy efficient buildings are looking similar? Or
well, this is probably more to do with building culture than with the energy systems. Right now, it's the cheapest to build buildings just with using concrete and put a few windows in, and that ends up with every building looking the same. And then most buildings are designed with standard building information modeling software, which also use the same components and so on. So yeah, that's why everything looks so similar. Older buildings, it was more handcrafted, obviously much more expensive. This is a main reason why they look different. And at the end, the way the economics work today, make it hard to build something that is very good looking and economically at the same time. Yeah, we tried hard that our building is like not so much the same as others, but
for sure it's not.
Thank you. But it takes a lot of love into the details that you can do that.
Before going to the last session for Fire Round, what was the spark for you to move from health and digital solutions to a physical work, like to build something?
Yeah, so you mentioned my former company, My Sugar, that I co-founded.
That was for diabetes?
Yeah,
something?
yeah, right. We built a diabetes management platform that at the end pretty much had the digital pancreas on your smartphone. That means from automatic measurement of your blood sugar to injecting your insulin in a device. And today the company is serving 6 million diabetics.
Wow.
So it was an exciting journey. The health tech was probably the curiosity in my resume, because I've always been fascinated by the intersection of technology and design. And we started the company officially in 2009. And the iPhone was introduced 2007, the App Store in 2009. So we were really early. And to me, it was really clear this little device will be the door to the world. And my co-founders lived with diabetes. And I think you should always solve the problems that are next to you and are close to you. And so we really thought we can make an impact. And that's what we did. So we had like no formal knowledge on how to build a company. And and at the end, it was like 200 people from 42 nations all over the world in the middle of Vienna.
And what is now the status of the...
Still the same. Yeah, still the
They're
same.
still running.
Yeah, it's still running.
And what was the spark to change to this energy world?
Yeah, for me, it was clear. I don't live with diabetes. Like when we sold the company, and as soon as you give the main strategy out of your hands, and especially when I don't live with the problem that my journey at some point will be over.
Okay.
And I've always been motivated to do something physical too. So I always wanted to bring the digital experience into the physical world, which actually at the end we also did with My Sugar. So we integrated a lot of hardware, medical hardware, which I found actually very exciting. And that's what's happening here too. And it's a hard journey, but really designing this device that runs the software we need and the intersection of all the disciplines you need, this is what makes it unique. This is what enables us to solve problems that others cannot. As I said, we are not smarter than others. We are just working in a different way.
Yeah. So you are the iPhone of heat pumps.
We'll see.
Nice.
Getting to the quick fire round towards the end of our interview, what do you think that's going to solve the energy crisis? The design part or the engineering part? I mean, it's the same.
Well, the engineering part solves the physics, so it is obviously important, and the design part solves mainly the adoption. And I think you need both. You cannot live without the physics, but you cannot live without the adoption. So you need both.
And now in the imaginary world, you get 1 billion euros for the company, not for yourself. What would you do to accelerate energy transition or to foster your technology? What would be the point to invest?
Yeah, we'd ramp up serial production and launch 10 cities at the same time.
Yeah, and it's also again a design question. You think that one giant heat pump or 100 small ones?
In the urban context, usually small and modular wins. For huge district heating, usually the big wins.
Regarding the this phase out gas, I don't know, in German is gas Ausstieg. What would you say that is the most misunderstood aspect of this program?
That it's been done before. Vienna already had an energy transition, a very successful one.
Which one?
Vienna was like all over the city. Vienna is a very old city, and it has been. It used to be bigger than it is now.
Well, Rahul always says like, no, this is a new city. India.
And Vienna used to be on decentralized coal and oil, and that's not long ago. That's even my co-founder Hüseyin lived in an apartment with decentralized oil, where everybody had like in their apartments all these oil canisters and so on. And it was a problem with the air pollution in the city. Second, the problem was the convenience was off the chart. It's like having this in your apartment is like terrible. It smells bad. It's a lot of work. And the third part, and that actually what triggered it is the cost of oil went up. You know, there was in the end of the 70s the Yom Kippur War, so very similar to the one in Israel today.
Yeah, deja vu.
Right, and Vienna decided to go to gas, because if you take the CO2 out of the equation, it's actually a very clean solution.
Yeah,
and
I mean cleaner, but it's still everything.
Yeah, and they implemented a strategy that was so successful that without forcing anybody, like within one generation, Vienna was pretty much off oil and coal. And it's been done before. And it is pretty much the same strategy we are doing. So respect the ownership structure. Wherever your heating was before, it will be afterwards, no matter if it's central or decentral. You bring the infrastructure part. So back then it was the energy source gas. Now it's ambient heat source, right to the apartment, and then everybody decides for themselves when they want to switch.
Yeah, and also the technology change, because the gas boilers were not back in the time. There you changed to gas, and now you are electrifying.
Sure. The technology is a different one now, but the principles are the same.
Nice.
So the added convenience is very important. Back then, the added convenience was you don't have to carry your oil canisters anymore, and it doesn't smell bad anymore. Today, the added convenience is lower cost plus cooling.
And Gerald, you have been a serial entrepreneur. You've been into entrepreneurship from 2009. What will be your advice for the young founders in Austria and throughout Europe?
Oh,
especially now.
Yeah, no, it's one of the most exciting for young people. I think it's one of the most exciting times ever. It's the whole world is reshaping. Not just the energy space is reshaping. Obviously, AI and agentic development, agentic programming is changing. If you're flexible in your mind and absorb all these new opportunities, I'd say I think the most important advice I probably can give is look at two aspects, like what is changing and what will remain. I think that is important. That I think the elephant in the room that is changing is obviously AI, but what will remain? And I think the remaining will be the need for cheap energy, for cheap heating and cooling. People in very special in Europe is that people don't want to rip down our buildings and so on. And if you look at those two things, I think the combination is powerful.
It has been a great conversation. Thank you. And maybe you want to make some last statement or quoting to finish the interview.
If you're doing something that doesn't make the world better, quit your job and get to work on something really useful. For example, the energy transition.
Hey, on that note, Gerald, thank you very much for giving your time and especially the tour. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And also, as usual, thanks to the community for watching the episode and keep tuned for our next interview. Ciao, ciao, ciao.